Hi, this is Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Today is Thursday, and I'm here broadcasting from Chesapeake, Virginia. And I'm broadcasting to YouTube and Facebook. And I'll also be communicating with others after the program. My wife Gloria is in the studio today.
Hi, everyone.
So she'll be monitoring this broadcast and also checking on the chat room. Now, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to do what I call a shopping scene. Okay, it's a landscape, but it's also a cityscape, but it's really a shopping center. And I did an on-location painting, a sketch, about a week and a half ago, just for the building. And I'll show you a quick one of that. Let me show you. I want to show you. I'll show you a little clip there of what I saw. This is the location and a little bit of activity going on. So it's a real short flip, and let me turn it on right now. Okay, that was a quick look at the building I was painting there on location. But there was so many people around, I didn't have time to put them in. So I thought I'd come back to the studio and do the painting again here in the studio. And then I'm going to add people into the painting. And I thought that'd be interesting because I've had questions in the past about how do I put people in the painting and so forth. So some artists and some people have a little problem painting people or figures in their landscape. So I'm going to go over that today, and then I'll add them to my painting. So let's go over to my painting table, and let's get started. Turning on the chat room. All right. Okay. Okay, what you see here now, this is a reference photograph that you saw there, a little film clip of. I have a reference photograph, and this is the building I'm going to paint. This building here is the shopping center, the main one of the main buildings, and I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to put the tree in, the trees, and I'm also going to do the roadway. Okay, then I'm going to do that first. Then I'll come back. We'll do a little exercise on painting people, and then I'm going to put those into the scene. So the second part of the demonstration will be adding the figures. So I've done a sketch here on my sketch pad, and this is the scene I saw, or this is the scene I'm going to paint today. So I've done a little sketch, got my configuration, got my layout here all set up. So let's go over to my paint. Let's go to my paints here. I'm going to be using basically two primary lemon yellow, Pyrrole Red, and Colbalt Blue. That's my one set of primaries: yellow, red, and blue. Yellow lemon, Pyrrole Red, and Colbalt Blue. I'm going to use the second primary set of Yellow Ochre, which is a little darker yellow, Alizarin Crimson, which is a much darker red, and Ultramarine Blue. So that's my second primary set. Then I'm going to also add a little bit of burnt sienna for some of the shadow patterns and so forth, and a little bit of Payne's gray just to dull down some of the colors here. So those are the colors I'm going to use in my setup today. And I'll let you take a look at my palette. I got them laid out here. These are Holbein watercolors, and I'm also going to be using the Holbein brushes today. And all this material is on my website, www.everestwatercolors.com. I'll bring it up close so you can see that. So that's a list of my primary colors and my website. Okay, well here's the lemon yellow, the yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Up here is a Pyrrole Red. Here's the crimson. This is a Alizarin Crimson. This is a Colbalt Blue. And here's Ultramarine Blue, and then over here is Payne's Gray. Okay, so those are the colors I'm going to be using today from my palette. And what I do in most of my paintings, I do a little color mixing chart because there's interesting combinations of different colors. So across the top here, I have the two yellows. I have the lemon yellow and yellow ochre. This is the two reds, Pyrrole Red and Alizarin Crimson. The two blues, Cobalt and Ultramarine, and this is Burnt Sienna. Okay, now a couple interesting colors I'm going to be mixing here. I'm going to be mixing a much darker yellow, so I'm going to use a little bit of yellow lemon mixed in with the yellow ochre. This is a combination right here. Another combination I'll be using is the green. In the trees, I got yellow lemon mixed in with cobalt blue and yellow lemon mixed in with ultramarine blue. So those will give me a couple nice green colors, light and dark. The other color combination, again, I've showed this down here. This is a cobalt blue and the lemon yellow, and cobalt blue with the yellow ochre also gives me a dull green, but I may use that a little bit in the trees too, a little combination. This one down here is one of my favorite. It's down here. This is burnt sienna mixed in with cobalt blue. This gives me a gray, and also burnt sienna mixed in with ultramarine blue gives me a gray. And I'll be using that for the roadway and some of the shadow patterns. Now down here down here at the bottom I have Payne's Gray. I mixed that in with a little bit of you can see I mixed it in with a little bit of yellow ochre. It gives me a dull gray. It's a warm gray, but it's dull. You can see how the Payne's Gray added to that. Now here at the very bottom, I mixed up yellow lemon, yellow ochre, and then I added on top of that layer, I added the Payne's Gray to give me a look at a shadow pattern. So there's a shadow pattern in the painting today. Let me take a look. This is the painting I did on location. This is a sketch I did. And you can see here, I've got a shadow pattern come down off the building, and this area over here is all in shadow and also part of the ground. The only light area is right here, and of course the sky. So that's kind of my was kind of my painting plan as far as colors and shadows and so forth. Also, I put Pyrrole Red and a little bit of Payne's Gray together here to give me that shadow pattern on the building. Give me a darker red here in the shadow pattern. And as far as the roadway, I've got the gray pattern here for the roadway, which is Payne's Gray, a little bit of burnt sienna, and a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I add a little bit of Payne's Gray down here also to give me a different pattern, or a different gray pattern than the shadow pattern. So Payne's Gray, just a little touch of Payne's Gray to give me a little bit of, to dull down the color and to add maybe a shadow color. So that's my mixing chart that I use to mix all the paints. Those are the paints across the top, and these are the mixtures of the paints going across. So it's always a good idea to have a mixing chart to compare the colors and so forth that are used in the painting, and I'll be referring to that during the painting process. Okay, I'll get my sketch out of the way. Okay, I transferred this drawing, my design drawing. I transferred it to a quarter sheet of Gemini watercolor paper. This measures 15 inches wide by 11 inches high, 11 by 15. Gemini 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. Okay, and this is also available on my website, everestwatercolors.com. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up the color. I'm going to start with the lighter colors. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of that lemon yellow and just a touch of little yellow ochre here. Give me a little yellow color with a lot of water. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the yellow or the light colors up here in this top. So these are the areas at the top of this building. I'm just going to knock them in. And this area up here, I'm going to do this for a little quickly because I got more things I want to do here. But putting in something, this is the top of the building here, and there's a little bit of yellow strip across here, the brickwork and so forth. And this comes down. This section here comes down. This is a yellow or a lighter color. Again, I'm using a lemon yellow mixed in with a little bit of the yellow ochre. So this yellow brickwork here is a trim on this building, which is very interesting. Interesting architecture here in this shopping center. Go right on down. Okay, now I'm going to pick up another brush. I'm going to use a round brush, and I'm going to these arches here, which are in shadow, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in. I'm going to put a little darker mix here in shadow. So I added yellow ochre. I added yellow ochre to the lemon yellow, and that'll give me a darker value. I may put a little touch of Payne's gray on that because I want that's to be in shadow. So it'll dull that down, and it'll also present that as a shadow color of this light yellow. So this is the shadow portion of this particular area. Now all these other areas are the same using the same color, ultramarine, using yellow lemon, little mixed in with a little bit of yellow ochre, and just a touch of Payne's gray to dull it down. Because these are in shadow. These areas are in shadow. I'm going to put these in very quickly. Just want to have an idea of the architecture here. A little bit of color. This is Holbein number 16 round that I'm using. This is a nice brush. It's a synthetic brush, but it holds a lot of paint. And let's see, I want to come down. That arch is done. That arch is done. I'll darken this up just a little bit more. Okay, they're in shadow. That's why they're darker. That's the lighter one. That's in the sun. This is in shadow. I'll mix up a little bit more of that. Yellow lemon mixed in a little bit of yellow ochre and a touch of Payne's gray. And I'll get these other darker areas here. These are in shadow. This is in shadow, this part here. So I'm going to put this in. This section of the front side of this building was in shadow. So I'm bringing this on down to the shadow section. So these won't show up too much after I finish the shadow pattern, but I want to at least get the design in. And there's a little bit of the yellow or lighter value here on this part of the building as we go further back. All this part of the building is in shadow. The light's coming from behind the building. So that kind of here, this section, here's another little archway on this side. It comes down. Okay. Now the next, there's a part of the building that continues on. And it has the same architecture. So I'll continue that. These are in shadow also. Just some of these buildings will show up a little bit, but not enough to see. Okay. And let's see if I got that part. That part's done. That part's done. Okay. Now I'm going to add in the darker red. So the I'm going to use a bigger brush. Now this is the Holbein 3/4 inch flat. It's a synthetic brush, but it does a nice job. So I'm going to put this area up here. This is in sunlight, so this is a bright red here. So it's in bright sunlight, so that'll be red because it's red brick. Then the rest of the red, I'm going to use the Alizarin Crimson. This Pyrrole Red is what I use for the bright red. So now I'm going to put in the darker red, which will come across here. And I'm going to knock that down a little bit with a bit of Payne's Gray, a little bit of Ultramarine. I want that to be a darker. This is in shadow, so it's going to be a darker red. I'll move this board around a little bit so I can get a better angle at this. Move the board just a little bit so I get an angle. I'll turn it even more. Almost upside down here. I'm trying to get an angle so I can get my brush work in here. So I turn it upside down so I get the angle proper. Turn it back around again. I'm making these real dark because these are in shadow. This is dark. This is a dark red in shadow, so that's why I use the Alizarin Crimson mixed in with a little bit of Ultramarine Blue and just a touch of Payne's Gray to dull it down. Gives it almost a purple mix. Just want to get enough of this structure down so it'll be the backdrop because I want to be able to put the figures in, which will make a little more sense. So this just defines the structure of the building. And I'm trying to simplify. I'm not going to put in a lot of detail on this, just enough to show the structure. Okay. I think I'll go to another smaller brush again. I'm getting a closer area here, so I'll change the brush. And I'm going around the edges of these little columns here, and I'm still painting in the shadow area. And I'm just trying to leave enough definition here for the, it looks like the building. It looks like this, the building that I painted. Yeah, finishing off the edge here. There's a little continuation of the building down here. And the colors, you go further down in into the distance here in the background, the colors get a little duller, a little less defined, but just enough to show. These buildings all had the same color and configuration lined up down the street. Okay. Now, the other thing that was really prominent here was the windows. The windows were really dark. They were in shadow, but they also showed this was an alcove in the back. So I put this little bit of Payne's gray mixed in with the ultramarine blue to give it the dark recess. I'm probably just going to put in one layer here, just for demonstration purposes, to getting these lights, getting these colors in here. Actually, I would probably go in with 2 layers, but this is the first layer, at least getting the color down, blocking in the main colors. But it's just a demonstration to get the shape of the building in here and to block in the main colors. Another archway here with a large, the walk-in. This is the window over here. This is the walk-in into the doors on the side of the building, but it's in shadow. So I mixed a little bit of ultramarine blue with a little bit of Payne's gray to give it a dull, dark color, shadow color. Yeah, one more window over here. We'll get this in. A long window and an archway over here. Another, another window down here. The windows all over the place. Large windows. Leave that alone. And back over here, I want to put some color. This is actually in shadow also. So let me just pick up a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of Alizarin Crimson, and put this in here. Oh, that's dark. Ooh. The Alizarin Crimson is really strong. So I'll put that in there. It's a dark bricks. Add a little bit of Payne's gray to that and make it dull down a little bit. Okay, there's the, I'm going to use the ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt sienna to make a gray. I'm going to do the tile on the roof just to give an indication of the tile roof. Up a dark gray and add a lot of water to it. And this will be the rooftop that comes down here. It was a light gray rooftop that came down here off the building here. It's in sunlight, so it's light. It's a light gray. And then there were. I'm gonna move the board a little bit so I can get the angle here. The these little windows up here had a little roof to them, little roof edge. I'll put those in just to give some interest. I'm gonna take a smaller brush and put in some. It was a dark. These had dark windows in the front, so these were in shadow. Taking up small. This is a number 8 round Holbein brush. They had windows up here. I'm just putting enough structure here to represent the building, and I'm not going to do a lot of work on this one, just to give a indication. The whole intent of this demonstration was not to do a lot of work on buildings, but just to have a building in the story, and then I want to add figures here. Okay. I'll let that dry. But over here, let's see. Let's get that. I got a tree over here on the right, so I can go ahead and put that in. Let me take this brush here with a little bit of dark brown, and I'll put a tree in over here. Take a little bit of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. There'll be a dark brown tree off here to the right. This tree was right in front where I was sitting when I did the plein air painting. It was right there in front of me. But it made a nice little right side frame to frame the scene a little bit, to anchor the right side of the painting, and not to have it wide open. Okay, then there's a bunch of greenery up here, so I can put that in right now too. Let me get the greenery in. It was a green tree, so I have mixed up a little bit of cobalt with the yellow lemon. Cobalt blue and yellow lemon make me a nice green. And the light green I want to have, I'll look at my reference point here. Looking at the reference photograph, there's a nice light green here in the foreground, and it gets darker as I go back. So I'll use that as a guide. So I'm using the silver brush Quill number 6 number 10 Quill. And I'm putting in the light green, and I'm just using a little dabble stroke here just to get the texture of the trees. So this lighter green here is in a little bit in the foreground. It's this tree is in the foreground. It's sitting right here, right by my side as I was painting the scene. And that was a little bit of darker green now, so I'll put the ultramarine blue mixed in with a lemon yellow. That'll give me a darker green, and that was in the background. So these background trees back here were darker, mainly because they were in shadow. Also, the sunlight was behind the building, but it didn't light up the trees that much. So these are darker background trees, which runs down behind the building. So I use a little bit of ultramarine and lemon yellow to make that mixture. Yeah. So mixing my own greens. Really, just the primary. It was just a primary palette today. I didn't use any special colors other than the primaries. Mixing the yellow and the blue to make green, and mix the yellow and the blue to make green, and yellow and the red to make a little bit of darker red. Okay. This whole emphasis here today was I painted this on location, so I would recommend to all artists and all painters to get out and paint outdoors as often as possible. It'll give you ideas. It'll also give you inspiration for painting. But the idea of this one was to capture this scene, but also to bring it back into the studio and work on it with an added feature, which I'm going to add in after I finish this background here, which is adding people to the scene. So the whole mission today is to get this main part and get the structure down, and then to put in some people, put in some figures. So you can spend a lot of time on putting in the elements, trees, buildings, but you want to have something to make it more interesting or tell a story a little better. People will do that. People give action. Let's see, I want to put another, I'll go more dark up here. So mix a little more ultramarine and yellow lemon. Gives me that dark green, and I'll put some dark green up here. This was behind that one little tree area. It was another tree, several trees here over the top of this building. This happened to be a darker one behind. Get a little mixer. A little practice on painting trees today, which I do. I love to paint trees. They're one of my favorite subjects. And I like to paint buildings and trees. And today, once I get this done, we're going to also paint some people. I'll leave some white paper. I think the white paper gives a little bit of sparkle. I don't have to cover every little part of this. Section in there. I'll put a little more dark down here. Okay. Now there was a little sky, and I think I'll put that in too. There was a little sky showing, so I'm going to put a bit of cobalt blue, light blue. So I add a lot of water to that. And there's a little bit of blue up here above the building, so I'll put that in. Just a little bit of blue, a little bit of cerulean blue. to show it there was a little bit of sun. That was a very sunny day. So it'll be a nice blue sky. That'll tell part of the story. And it was blue over here shining between these tree limbs. Put some blue in here. As I mentioned before earlier, this is really the first layer, putting down the blocking in colors, because I'd come back later and put a second layer in. But right now I'm just trying to get blocking in the basic layers uh, of color the trees, color the building. Then I would come back in with a second layer and add in a little more detail, clean up some of the edges and so forth. I want to finish off doing this tree mass in here. So the sky was peeking through part of the foliage here, the top, little blue sky, and with some blue sky over here. Okay. And that gray mix I had was also this building. The building had, well, that's a little dark. So I want to add a little water to it and wash it down. If you put down a stroke and it's a little dark, then just add water to your brush, move the paint around, and it'll lighten it up. So that's part of this is part of the rooftop of this large column here. So this is a gray. The gray tile on top of the roof. There's a gray tile down here. I'll put that here. Just again, these are little details, but just to add a little more, just add a little more interest here. And it was some. No, that was. Okay. All right. Now, the last thing I'm going to block in. I left a lot of white showing. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about that right at this point. I'm going to put in the roadway, which was mainly a gray, and that's why I have the burnt sienna. Use a larger brush. Pick that up. Put some purple in it. That wouldn't hurt too much, but I'll take out some of that purple. Remove some of the color. Rinse out the brush. Burnt sienna. A little bit of ultramarine blue. Lots of water. Maybe put a little more blue in there. A little more blue. I'm mixing up a gray, burnt sienna, and ultramarine blue. It's still a little brown. Go back, put in some more blue. A lot more water. And I'm going to put that gray, light gray. This is the roadway, so I'm going to put the light gray in here. See that? I'll move the board up so you can see what I'm doing. I'm painting the light gray in here. This is the roadway in the foreground. A large brush load. Sometimes you got to go back and reload again because this is dry paper. It's dry paper. You really have to load a lot more in your brush because it's the paper soaks it up really quick. And put some over here. This is all. I'll make that all gray also. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna talk about making some figures. Right now, we just got blocked in. We got the buildings and the trees and the foreground here with the. So we're gonna let this dry while we talk about figures. So I got some information here. What I normally do, and let me explain to you here. A couple things I think about. While I was there, I took a couple of snapshots of people walking because there was a lot of people walking in and out of the shopping center. So I picked a couple figures that I could use walking there that I could use as samples. So you can find samples of people in magazines and books, and also while you're taking pictures, you'll get people in your scenes also. But generally speaking, the size of a figure is very important. And what I can show you here is this figure here in the foreground. If I take a ruler, I measure the head. The head right here measures 3/16, and the whole figure from the head to the toe to the foot is 1.5 inches. So that's 1.5 inches high from the foot to the top of the head, and the head itself is 3/16. What does that mean? Well, if I took a calculator, I don't need one. Let's just take a little simple here. 3/16 was the size of the head, and if this body was 1.5 inches, how many sixteenths is that? Well, that's 16 plus 8. That's 24/16. So the size of the head compared to the body, the size of the head was 3/16, and the total body from head to toe was 24/16. Well, come to find out, that ratio is 3 to 24/16. That's 1 to 8, 8 to 1. So that's a general measurement for when you do a figure in a scene. That you use the head heights. You use 8 head heights for the size of the person or the size of the figure. That's a general rule, and I've read a lot of books about it. I've seen a lot of videos on it, and that's the general rule that the head is 1/8 of the body size. So head 8 head heights for the length of the body. I took several other photographs. So I had other people walking. Here's a couple other photos. Here's another photograph of some people. Here's a third one. So I took several photographs of different people and walking to and from the shopping center. So what I did was I plotted those on a piece of paper. And what I find out is I look at the vanishing point. Where's the vanishing point? Well, the vanishing point is the angle that the rooftop is down to the horizon. My horizon is about right here, right across here. And the angle down here, so the vanishing point is about right in this area here. Well, if you look at the vanishing point, that is the horizontal line is right here. And you'll find by looking at the photographs that generally here in the foreground, all the heads all hit right along that horizontal line. They're equal. Equal location of the head height. Now, as you move back into the background, the figures get a little smaller, which means the head stays pretty close to the horizon line, but the length of the body gets shorter because they're further away, so their feet gets up in the air as you get back. So that's generally how I place people in the landscape. Is I locate the horizontal line. Now here's my sketch. Here's my pencil sketch. I locate the horizontal line. Then I locate the foreground figures, and their head is going to go along that horizontal line. There's 6 of them right here. They all line up on the horizontal. The head hits up pretty close on the horizontal line. Then as I go further back into the painting, perspective-wise, they get smaller but the heads also change position, and the feet change position. They get up a little bit. The angle of the perspective gets further back into the uh, into the into the painting, into the picture. So the people back here in the background, their head's going to be not necessarily on the horizon, but very close to it. But their feet are going to be much shorter up in the air. Make them smaller. So you have a perspective line that's going to run along the edge of the building, and then and the edge of the people in the background are going to have the same. If you follow the feet, their feet are going to fall along that same perspective line. And that's a general rule of thumb for sizing people and locating them on a painting or a drawing. Now, this was a good book. I bought this a couple of weeks ago. It's called Learn to Paint People Quickly by Hayes and Son. I'd recommend this if you have to go online to order this, but that's what I did. Learn to Paint People Quickly by Hazel. So I'll put this in the description below. But it's a good little book. It goes through lots of examples of how to paint figures and so forth, how to get the sizes and the proportions and so forth. So it's a good reference to look at. There are other references. I probably have 5 or 6 other books with references to figures. So what I thought I'd do now is go through a couple of quick examples of how to draw a figure, paint a figure. Let me take my I'm going to take my number 8 round here, or I could also use the rigger. It doesn't matter which one. I have a number 8. This is number 8 round from Holbein. This is number 8 round silver brush from the Black Velvet number 8. Either one would be fine. I'm going to use both of them. But generally, I'm going to use some dark areas. This is watercolor on watercolor paper. I start out with a body, and the body can be very, very simple. Usually the posture. If it's standing up straight, then you have a body that's pretty well standing up straight. You got them pretty well vertical. And then you think about the extension of the legs. If you got them walking or moving, one leg's going to be shorter than the other. One leg's going to be in front of the other. And then you can add arms. And then the last thing you want to put on is a head. And remember, that head's going to be very small. But you get someone. It's just you get the side. You get the body position, the size of the body, and then the legs, which are moving to the forward or backward, and then you add an arm or something like that. And if they're carrying something, you might put a bag in one side, showing that they're carrying something. But generally speaking, that is the way to do it. And again, just a couple quick brush strokes. And you can show an arm coming out, and then you position the head above the shoulders, and then you have a figure. And as you go further back into the painting, and the next thing I want to point out is you also want to maybe put a shadow pattern. Put a shadow of the walking on. It gives them a little more believability of location. But as they go further back, you can leave the heads along the same horizon line. And then as you get further back into the background, the body is going to get a little bit shorter. Okay. Which indicates that they're further back into the landscape. So as you go further and further back, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. And as you have a person walking to the side a little bit, I'll put the head in first, and then you have maybe a side fit. Maybe this is this profile of the person. Then you get maybe the leg here is moving forward. Then you got the leg in the rear moving back. They might be moving their arms a little bit. So you get a side view or profile view of them moving in direction. And then you put the shadow in there to make it look a little more, put them on the ground. Okay. So we talked about the size of the person. The head's very small compared to it's about 1/8 of the total body. And the way you measure that, if you had to, with a pen, you start out with started with here, and depending on how high you want to go, let's say that's the height of the height of the person. Then you go down, you cut that in half. That's the waistline. That's where the middle of the body is. Then you go take half of this, and that's the middle of the chest. Half of this, that's about the kneecap. All right, now you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you cut that in half one more time, and that's the size of the head. Okay, so now you have 1/8 of this distance is the head size, and then the rest is the body. Okay, then you want to get the posture. If it's standing up straight, you get the skeleton part, and depending on where the legs are, and then you got the arms coming either side. So it's very, you can almost make like a stick person, and then add in the actual clothing or whatever on top of that. Okay, and then put a shadow under the feet. Okay, so that's very quickly a little dissertation on how the figures are drawn. Okay, now let me go to the painting now. Let's add in some figures. I'm going to use my number 8 silver brush. What I'm going to do now is put in a light tone. Let's say this figure here. I'm going to put in not a dark. I'm going to use a light gray. So this one here is walking into the shopping mall, into the shopping building. So I'm putting an undertone color just as a light gray. That's all I'm doing. I'm putting a light tone undertone. Now, what I'll do, if I want to put some color on that, let's give him a blue shirt. So let's take the Colbalt Blue, and now I can go in there with the color over top of that, and that makes it do that so that the color isn't so strong. You just want to have an indication of the color. So put the Colbalt Blue there. Then say I want to give him use some khaki shorts on. I'll use a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of yellow ochre, and give him some khaki shorts. Let's say this one use a little bit of that yellow ochre. Let's give him a blonde hair. So I'll put the little yellow ochre on top of his head. He's walking away, so the back of his head is going to be showing more. Okay, now for his arms and legs, because he's got a short sleeve shirt on, I'm going to use a little bit of red. This is opera mixed in a little bit of yellow ochre. I mean a little bit of yellow lemon. That'll give me a peach color or a skin tone. So then I can go ahead and put in some color for the arms and for the legs. Okay, so that's one figure there. This figure here in the background, I'm going to put in. Okay, I'll start with a light tone. This person is walking out, coming toward us. So, and this person is carrying has been shopping, so this person is carrying a shopping bag. The bag there. And to put a little color there, I'm going to put in use some more of that Colbalt Blue. And we'll leave the little bit of gray trousers here. Now this person, you can see this person's got a little bit of stride. I got one leg coming forward and the back leg is behind, crossing over, crossing behind. Okay. Now with the person coming forward, I'm going to put the skin tone here in the foreground, in the front part of the head, so it looks like it's coming toward us. And then I'll put in the arms. Okay, so we got a realistic figure. I think I'll try one more over here. This person here is walking away. Let's see, I've done those two. I got several here. Let's just try the smaller ones are way back here in the back. They're pretty simple. They're silhouette. So the ones back here is just silhouette. So I'm just going to put a head, a body, some legs showing they're standing there, moving a little bit, and they're together with another person. Show some legs, just indications of a size. And one more I'll put in is there's a figure over here. And this figure is pushing a shopping cart from the store. Okay. All right, so there are some examples there of adding figures. We added this figure here of the person going in and the person coming out. Now I have other figures here to show, but I'm going to stop at this point because I've gone a little bit past where I want to go as far as time goes. So this today was just a block-in procedure, a demonstration blocking in the scene. I did the scene here on location, so the building itself. I continue on with the building and the shape and so forth. I wanted to get to a point where I could add in figures. I added other figures in here. Now, one I would recommend is once we get to the stage here, I can go back and put in some more color. Take some of that ultramarine blue. I want to use that ultramarine blue. And when you go down, I'll just demonstrate right here. You can put the background color behind the person, and you can leave a little bit of highlight around the figure, just to give them a little more emphasis on their location. So you can add, as I would go back and play and work on this painting a little bit, I could go in and add in some more details such as this. I would put take a little more time and go around and add in so that the figure would stand out better on the painting. So I put leave a little bit of white showing around the figure itself to give a little bit of highlight. Okay. Now, what I did here was, number one, I located the figures. You can see here that all the figures line up on the horizon, all the heads, 1, 2, all just 90% of them are right here in the front, are all lined up with the head. Then I put the size of the figure depending on how close they are to where I was sitting. And then when I put the figure in there, I got the size of the head compared to the size of the body. And then I got them, and they're going in the right direction. I got them walking in this way, walking this way. Got them standing. Got them carrying bags. Back here, this figure is pushing a cart. So there's all kinds of things you can do in a scene like this. So what they do is they add life, and they add life and interest to a particular painting. That's why I wanted to demonstrate that today, was adding figures to a painting to give a little more interest, a little more activity, a little more life. So let's go back to my painting table. Back to my main table. Okay. Yeah, I want to wrap this up today because I can go further on it. But what I'm going to do is I'll finish up the painting, and then I'll post that. I'll post that along with the video to show the final results. So it needs a little more work on the design of the buildings and so forth, and the figures. I can add in some more figures, but let me. I did a rough. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah. I'll show it up here. I'll put it up here in front of the camera. I did a diagram of the figures. I actually put the colors. So the actual painting will look something like this when it's done, with the building behind, and there'll be figures in the foreground and figures in the background. But I did this in pencil, and then used colored pencil to put in some of the colors. So that's what it'll look like when I'm finished as far as putting the figures in. Okay, so today's lesson was basically to develop a painting such as a landscape like this, or a cityscape, in this case a shopping center, and then to add in some figures for activity and to give a little life. So that was my objective today, and I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll post the final painting when I finish it up. I'll clean it up and put it with the video when I'm finished. Okay, well, thank you for tuning in today, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and give me a thumbs up, and also give me some likes and so forth on Facebook. And I'll be coming back next week on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Don't forget to subscribe and stay in touch. So, goodbye.